G'day guys, what's cracking? Part 3 of the Stella build. We have brake master cylinder, we have a Gilmore drive pulley kit, we have hoses and fittings, we have a B&M transcooler, got some other parts on the way as well, but yeah, we got battery cables to run, we got plenty going on, so let's get into it. So on and off, I fluffed around with the fuel tank that's going in this thing. I thought it was all honky-dory, cleaned up in the wheel well, and unfortunately ended up breaking away a little bit of rust, which made a pinhole. So I had to fix that up as well. But it's all in now. It's all looking good, and I'm happy. So if we have a quick look. So that's the original tank. We have our fittings here now, and yeah, I'll probably have to notch into this valance panel, but boots all back together, which is killer. Batteries in, mounted, that's not going anywhere. We'll run cables now. We have an earth isolator, which is good, and run fuel lines for the tank, and then also run oil lines for the transcooler. Lots of measuring, measure twice, cut once, and yeah, lots of mounting. I started looking at what bit I'm going to do first. I'm going to start with the master cylinder. I kind of want the exhaust done so I can do the fuel lines and make sure that they clear the exhaust. I also want radiator and probably the front end on to do the transcooler. With the Landaus, because I've got the flip headlights, I'm not sure how much room I've got in the back. I might even just try and research it, get some photos or something, and see how much room I've got. But in the meantime, I'll get started on the master cylinder. I do have a video of fitting a Wilwood master cylinder to these type of cars. I'm going to refine it a bit. I was a little bit cowboy on the last one, that's all right. But this one, I'm going to refine it a little bit more, and yeah, if you want to know some details, go back and check out the other video I did, and then you can watch this again and get the refined bits. Now, we've got 3 brake lines, one for the back and one for each front. So I'm going to have to change these ends. They're what are they? I think they're a single flare or something like that. Oh, won't focus, but anyway, it's a single flare on those lines. But in this, you need a double flare. So I've had to buy these Aeroflow adapters. They're for the brake lines, because these are actually too long as well. And what did I have? I had an issue where these were bottoming out or something on the last one. So had to buy the other ones. And then I've also got to re-flare these brake lines. But we'll try and tidy these up a little bit. They've been bent out the way. Yeah, see if we can make it nice and pretty. So this is what I do to the Wilwoods. Very minor modifications. I think it looks nicer because you don't have the adapter plate. So you just got to chamfer the corner there, and you just elongate the hole down there a bit. Die grinder, nice and steady. I actually started that with a step drill bit, which kept it centered, and then just lightly tickled it with a burr bit. But you've got your radius here in the corner, which is what the corners hit. But once it goes in, you can't even tell. Now if we go to my bucket, that's what I did with mine. Obviously it's dirty and messy, but you literally cannot tell at all that it's been modified. So to keep it cleaner and not another plate which is silver and everything like that, I think just less is more. So that's a win. Now that this wrapped up little nugget fits nicely, I measured some bolts. It's a 3/8 threaded hole. Those are master mount bolts. or holes, whatever you want to call them. ARP bolts, I'm going to chuck them on. It's 1.25 inches long. I'm going to put the part number up here, and that will give you a kit of 5. Is what it is. You got some spares for other stuff, plenty of Imperial bolts and that around on these things, and then you can use them somewhere else. So anyway, that is what I'm going to run. The master and the thread ends up being about 1 inch, so an extra 1/4 of an inch, perfect. So that's what's going to mount the master cylinder. The pedals out, I've marked with the blue texture where I want my new pivot to be, and that's actually going to give it a bit more leverage as well, which is going to be really good for cocky and the feel. I tried finding, that's a 916 clevis pin. I tried finding them at local places close to me. Couldn't get one because I was just going to drill and leave that one there, but I really don't see Cookie's going to be changing this back. And if you really want to, you can just put it back there where it is, or just buy another one. There's plenty of auto ones floating around. So I'm going to grind the back of it off, re-drill up there. I'll weld this hole up and add the clevis pin there and see how it goes. All right, changing direction a little bit on this master cylinder. If we go around this side, we have a proportioning valve. Now, it's got the factory one there, and I'll be honest, it's in the way. It's been a pain to be able to organise the brake lines. So, I'm ditching that. Now you got that on. And I think that's going to make things a bit easier. I have bought some new brake line as well. So, I'm going to replace it all. I might need to replace the front wheel, right wheel brake line. But yeah, fingers crossed, don't need to, but have some there just in case. Yeah, brake pedal is in, which is awesome. It's not fun. So yeah, now I can put this in and start mocking up my push rod. I reckon that push rod's going to be too long. Way too much length on that. I think I at least need it to sort of be back here, because then, where is it? Got this and that need to go on. So, bit of stuffing around, but if I get the master cylinder in the car, then I can do a proper measurement. I did measure off mine, and yeah, it was about 110 mil. And this is like, yeah, way too long. So anyway, let's get in the car, and then I can mock things up a bit better. And that's pretty much what this whole project has been. Together, mock up, buy parts, mock up. All right, pretty much all the brake system is done and dusted. Finally, I had to make a bit of a line just to make it run better and smoother. I was trying to readjust one of the lines and ended up breaking, and then once I pulled the paint off it, it was pretty rusty and pretty crap. So yeah, ended up doing another joiner just below the cowl and ran it down and folded it up nicely, primed it, painted it, happy days. So next step is I'm gonna have to prime it. Now, on the Wilwood, on my car Dumbo, I didn't do the proper Wilwood priming. All I did was just the good old fashioned way. Now, this isn't my car, so definitely I'm gonna give the Wilwood priming bench prime test, whatever you wanna call it, a go. So what they do is they have a couple of plastic fittings, so you take out the lines, put the plastic fittings in, run your hose back in. They don't specify yay or nay of how many lines you're running, whether you just need to do one side. All the pictures seem to show just the one side's fine, but they don't specify. So To be on the plus side, I've gotten myself a bit more tubing, and there was enough fittings that I was able to put another one on the other side. So I'm going to put that in there. For my diesel mechanic mates, that tube is oil sample tube, or SOS tube. Fits perfectly. So I'll zip tie that to the others and get pumping. Another bit of a tech tip for brake fluid. It's always a pain when you got to take the foil off the top of the bottle and try and get it to pour nicely, because there's always a little bit of foil left. And anyway, to keep it slow pouring, so it doesn't flow out too much and blah blah blah, I learnt this one. I put a bit of a big hole in it, just with a pen or a punch or a seal pick, whatever, and then a little hole at the top so it can breathe. And it's not the quickest, but it's the most controlled, and obviously we don't want brake fluid going everywhere. So that is my little tech tip for brake fluid. Now you will do lots of pumping to get that sorted. I did find that because you see the bubbles come up and down through the hose, if you just keep pumping, the bubbles just keep moving back and forward. So I applied it, kept it down, allowed time for the bubbles to get to the top, and then slowly pulled my foot off the pedal, and that allowed the air bubbles to keep staying at the top of the hose. And then when I put my foot down again, that fluid would try and dump some of the air bubbles out. So yeah, standard speed down and very slowly back is what I found. Let the air bubbles out a bit quicker. Probably another thing you could probably do is shorten the lines, because it seemed to be the air bubbles I had in just kept moving back and forward with the stroke of the master cylinder. So yeah, shortening the hoses might help a bit too. Brake pedal is all back in and adjusted. That nice little bit of lift up, which is what you want. And so what I ended up doing to sort the length out is I ran a die down the main shaft. Then we've got our adjuster and then our main rod there. So we've got new bushes on there. The stud is all welded into the pedal, and I'm going to call that a win. Alternator time now. We have a Power Master 140 amp, 150 amp alternator here, and we have the Bullet Engineering billet low mount alternator bracket. So let's open up, have a look. So here is the alternator bracket. Some freebies. Thank you guys. And there's a bottle opener in there. They're suggesting I like to drink beer. And stickers, we all love stickers. Yeah. Beautiful. So that'll go on just nicely. Don't need that bubble wrap anymore. Now, one thing to know, with these brackets, they do mount where your timing pointer goes. Now you can run the stock timing pointer, but because they've got like a little bit of a lip on them, you will need to run some washers. So I think from memory about 2 washers or something like that onto those bolts. Then you can run your stock pointer and also run that bracket. And now the alternator. Ooh, fancy one, shiny. Actually quite a nice little unit, that one. Softly rest that on there. Now I went the Power Master one because, oh no, I just still don't trust much of Chinese stuff, unless the customer requests it. But I know that Cookie is quite happy to trust my judgment on parts and stuff like that, and we are, as you know, going all good quality stuff on this, so I don't think he's going to cheap out on an alternator. But yeah, that'll look just nicely with that billet bracket as well. Right, let's get it on. Well, I've just sprayed up the pointer for the timing. It needed a bit taken off. So I got my washers here for my spacers, but I probably should have showed you this before I did it. But anyway, the way that the sheet metal's folded, it was a bit high on one side, so I've ground it down a bit, just give it a lick of paint. Look at that. Now, you can just see some clearance between there. That is thanks to a couple of 3/8 washers. But that'll be all sweet. Alright, alternator is in. I've just mounted it by the bottom bolt because I've been in this issue before. Depending on what alternator you get, I think the Bosch ones are a little bit shorter too when I've used like a stock alternator. But this one, we've got a bit of play there. So I'm going to look for some bosses and see if I might have something that I might be able to cut down, something like that. And oh, there's a space already got. Hey, that actually looks like it is. It's another bullet spacer from previous ones. But anyway, I'm just going to cut that down rather than adding washers because I think that'll look crap. We'll just get one nice. Oh, it's still not a bad looking silver. Maybe we paint it. How good does that look? Now, I've left the main pivot bolt. That one's a bit firm, but anyway, I left it a little bit loose. Now, I can grab some string or some wire or whatever, run it around, check my circumference, and then I can buy the right belt for it. And then that's another job off the list. So I've been thinking where to put the coil because when the engine came, it was where this fuel pressure regulator is. I think that's the best spot for the reg because we're running a mechanical pump. Now I've got to work out where to put this. Now, on my other Clevos, on the dual plane manifold, there's normally a boss at the back here, so you can hide the coil down in the valley, and then you run your coil lead up through to the distributor and keeps it all hidden nicely, but there are no bosses there to bolt anything. So skipped ahead a little bit and done my arts and crafts. I'm going to try and see if I can do a plate to mount it, something like that roughly, and then yeah, mount the coil straight onto that. Now we do have oil pressure sender, we'll call it. There, we've got a couple of things we can try and do with that. One, I'm trying to make this as high as I can. But two, we can put a 90 on that and maybe send the sender out that way. So anyway, let's get to making. Check that out. So what I can do now is trim the back section, give it more clearance there, tidy up these corners, start making it look a bit pretty. I didn't want it to go too much further forward because yeah, getting the boot on and off there would be a bit of a dicky dick. Anyway, I'll sit that there, mark the back, cut it, finish it off. There we have it, all drilled. Goes on nicely. Now I've got to bolt it to, it's quite frustrating these, because to get an Allen key on these screws properly, you've got to undo these. So anyway, I'll yeah, take this plate off then we can prep it, paint it, and chuck it on properly with everything bolted up. Should look good. Now, when I started doing this project, I did mention that we were going to try and hide the wiring. After I spoke to Cocky a little bit, it is, like, if you're going to do it, it's, yeah, doing it properly, dash out job, redo the whole car. So as a time thing, said we won't worry about that, but I do have to make some changes to this wiring anyway to get the starter and all that happening, because this car ran an external starter solenoid, which is now not there. And also with the battery being in the boot, we now have another battery positive central point for the power for the rest of the car. So we now have power in the engine bay here. And if we trace this harness down, that is what was on the starter relay. Those wires there. And so we're pretty much, and that'll be the ignition. One of them will be ignition. I think it's that one there, the red and blue. So most of this will disappear because it's now going to go down to the starter. And yeah, we're going to have to relocate, get some new ring terminals onto the harness closer and put it straight there. So that's why I'll be tapping into the harness here, snip, and get rid of a bit of this other stuff. Next thing on the list is the radiator and fan shroud. Now, I still want to use a stock fan shroud because they're just plastic and they're not too bad looking, but this is a aftermarket radiator, I believe. Doesn't quite fit spot on, so I'm going to have to modify one of the top radiator brackets just to give it a perfect fit. But yeah, wanted to find a nice clean shroud that I can fit an electric fan. So, went looking and I found one, and it's this here. And this actually is a VRVS Commodore shroud. And we'll chuck that there. You can see it's like extremely close, and something that's already prefabbed up is really good. So when you line that up to the top of the radiator, we come down here, it just misses the clips down the bottom. So what I did is I bought a 40mm flat bar, and I'll be able to cut off those original tabs on the shroud and be able to weld the 40mm flat bar right across, and that'll just slot straight in the bottom, bolt up at the top. Mwah. Right, now that is welded on. I'm going to flip around. And I had a notch out the bottom because of the bottom radiator bracket. But that slots in. Little gap. And they will bolt onto that top lip. Beautiful. It'll be quite nice. That's how it'll go. Oh, all done and painted. Fan is fitted. So let's get this shroud up and get it in the car. Oh, and drop it in those lower holders there. And I've done the holes for the top section. Again, sorry about the bad camera work. Look at that. Beautiful. Alright. Let's bolt her up. Another item to get this thing running is putting the dipstick on this transmission so I can put some oil in it all the way. It's a bit busy. Normally the dipsticks are on the driver's side of the trans. It's a bit busy there with the exhaust and cabling and blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to try and put it on the passenger side. Now you can get an adapter, aeroflow making adapter that'll go into your pan, has a seal on it and all that sort of stuff. So I'm gonna drill it out. I've already marked it, where I'm gonna go. So I used a bit of rod and came in through the hole and line them up. Oh, right there. So I will drill that out, and then where's the fitting? Then once that's drilled out, this fitting here will go there like that. Well, I should have thought of this beforehand, but anyway, this is how we learn as well. I don't know if you can actually see that. There. There is a gap there. I reckon my new port is hitting something, stopping the pan from going all the way up. So this is why we do things finger tight first. So anyway, I'll pull that off and see what it's hitting, whether or not we might be able to trim the thread that's still hanging inside and make it work. That's fair annoying, but might be a bit of a good thing too though. I'm gonna have to buy a new pan, it's all right, but if I buy a case-filled pan, maybe it won't come with the port on the other side, so then it saves us another possible leaking spot with another plug and stuff like that. So anyway, back to the drawing board to work that one out. I didn't really want to move it further back on the pan. On the side there is a press mark, so you don't really want to move that hole too much further back. Could go further down, but then it changes where your dipstick oil is going to be on the dipstick. So yeah, I kind of wanted it same in line with the other one to make sure that the oil level would be right on the dipstick. But anyway, we will have a look, see what we can work out. New pan has arrived. Got an RTS one, and this one is a hell of a lot, feels a hell of a lot better than the one that's on this trans already. Now, I don't know if you can, it does sound a bit tinny, but it is a thicker steel than what's on it already. So I'm gonna feel a lot better. Oh. Replacing this chromium one for that one. So now we're gonna measure twice and drill once for this time round and get it right. Here's a quick little tech tip for you. Now, done my hole in the transpan. On the back side here, there are some burrs, right? And good thing to get rid of burrs are your step drill bits. Now, I'm not going to be able to get a drill into this area here. So, little tech tip for you is get the drill and put the chuck on this end and run your drill in reverse and then just pull it towards you. Beautiful, let's have a look. Excellent, no more burrs. Let's clean up this mess and yeah, dummy fit it. So once I've dummy fitted this pan on, you can see on the right hand side of the plug there actually is a bit of a gap, and the plug doesn't go straight. It's not cross threaded, it is just the way that they've welded it all in. All right, back to try and sort this trans sump issue. Spoke to my supplier. They understood that RTS has not done the sump plug properly. All good. Not their fault, it's RTS. So they sent me another one. And it's the same thing. Have a look at the angle on that. That is crap. So obviously they got a bit of a manufacturing issue, but it's not the only issue it's got. Let's see if we can have a bit of a better look at this. These are the bolts they give. They are way too long. Drop one in. See how it doesn't go home? So, even the bolts on this won't sit properly. And they've got serrated faces, which I'm not a big fan of because then it stuffs up the paint when you're trying to tighten them up. But anyway, on like one side, so this one, you can see as well, doesn't go home. It's me trying to pull it through, and it just does not fit. So I probably wouldn't bother buying an RTS pan again because like that's bolts way too long. They don't fit, and the sump plug doesn't sit straight. So yeah, that's 3 problems on both pans that I've got. So I have one here, the first one, and I have another one on that guard. So yeah, pretty frustrating, but I'm gonna end up just using my own bolts and run some washers. I've got some smaller washers that'll sit nicely underneath the head of that bolt, and I'll make sure that they fit in there. Yeah, see, that's heaps better. Beautiful. Some 5/16 bolts. So anyway, let's get this pan on. Alright, trans pan is on, sump plug is holding for the time being. This is a temporary thing. This will get changed because I'm just not happy with it, but I've run some 5/16 bolts there. Now, this isn't straightforward. You can't just go ahead and whack this straight in. This elbow is actually too long standard and you'll hit the exhaust. So you've got to cut the tube and re-flare it. Now, I bought a cheap flare tool. I'm not happy with it. So I'm probably going to look at either getting a hydraulic shop to do it or something like that to get a better job with it. So, like I said, I want to change this pan again anyway. As you can see, it's sort of pulled up square enough, but yeah. And then yeah, I'll redo this flare. And then yeah, the dipstick runs up there. And then you've just got to make a mount adapter up the top at the back of the head there. And that finishes off the trans, but it's got oil in it. It's not leaking too much, just a little bit. But I reckon that's from a flare, because when you clamp to do the flare, it actually, yeah, clamps on the tube being alloy, it ovals it up a little bit. So I want to, yeah, find a way that is gentler on the tube. It's probably more suited for steel, the tool that I got, not alloy. So anyway, that will be a redo job, but that's all right. It's what we learn along the way. We are getting to the final stages of getting this thing running. So I'm going to pull the distributor out. I'm going to put some oil in this engine and I'm going to prime it up. I've got a little priming tool that you can run onto the oil pump with the drill. Check oil pressure. I've got the oil pressure sender out. Now I do still have to chase. Where'd it go? There it is. I do still have to chase another one. This is a VDO. It is off another engine. It's a bit more compact than the new one that I've got, and because I've done that coil bracket over the top of it, this one fits nicely. The other one does not. So I've still got to chase another oil pressure sender. Put that there so it doesn't fall off. Yeah, put some trans oil in it as well, and then put some fuel in it. So then I can just check that, make sure they don't leak. Also going to put some coolant in as well. A couple of other modifications I want to do to the cooling system to make things a bit tidier by pulling the brass heater hose barb out of the block. I don't think it's going to pull out. It's probably going to be a drill job. But anyway, yeah, I want to tap them so we can put plugs in them, or like I've done in previous Cleveland builds I've done. Give us 2 seconds and I'll show you the fittings. These bad boys. And they screw in, but they also actually pivot as well. So even though, you know, you get that tight, the MPT side of things, and then you can push that any way you want. So I've got a couple of different varieties of them, but I've always found them just a good, nice way to just tidy things up a little bit. And the way you angle them, like that one there, the elbow pretty much comes there, so you can point them up under the manifold, which I've done in the past with the air gaps. And yeah, it just keeps things tidy and hidden. So, boring bit, putting fluids in, exciting for me, boring for you guys. So I'm going to get into it and yeah, get ready to start it. Alright, so this is valve set time. Basically turning the engine over for each cylinder and doing just one cylinder at a time. Spec from the camshaft spec sheet was 26 thou, so yeah, got that all done. And the adjustments were pretty good, a couple of sort of tighter ones, but nothing real bad, so pretty happy with the way this engine's probably been running. Alright, let's get this drill on. Try it out like this. And I think from memory, you do it in reverse. There we go, look at that. Woo! So we got 70 psi, 80. But all that will now be in all the right places. Filter will be full, should be all up at the cam, up at the lifters. Yeah, now I've timed the distributor at around 14 degrees. Well, I'm going to try to anyway. Big give or take, around the 10 degree mark. So then I'll lock that in and then, yeah, put the sender in the back there so then we can check and make sure the gauge is working as well. While we wait for the new sender for the oil pressure, yeah, plug the coil in. I need to do an earth too from the chassis to the engine because the engine currently does not have an earth, so need to sort that out. Trans oil, coolant, done. You get sidetracked by things while you're doing something, like I was like, oh, I'll pull the plastic cap out of the tail shaft housing the gearbox and I'll put in, like I got just a yoke with no drive shaft attached to it. Went looking for it, couldn't find it. Anyway, got sidetracked by something else obviously, and I keep putting fluid in. Yeah, got to put something back in. Anyway, the plastic cap's back in for now, and I got a mess to clean up. Couldn't happen to a better bloke. We are pretty well ready to fire this thing up now. All the fluids are in. I've got water in the radiator, which is good because the thermostat housing is leaking. It was a bit corroded on the bottom side of the housing. Put a fresh O-ring on it, still hasn't sealed up, so I'll have to swap that one out. But yeah, got timing light out. Well, yeah, all fluids are in, trans oil, all that. I've done a temporary earth for the time being until I redo that. But yeah, fresh back off holidays. First cab off the rank, first day of work. So yeah, let's crank it up and see how it goes. Cranking nicely. Right. Might chuck that battery on charge, but that's good. We are cranking. Nothing's caught fire. Excellent. All right, so I just installed a inline spark tester just to make sure we are getting spark. Which we're not. So I need to work out what's going on. So I found my mistake, and my mistake was that I didn't have power, ignition power to the coil, but all good now. Everything else was all wired up. Rookie mistake, all good. But it was good, obviously, to get it cranking, try and get some fuel up. Have not checked fuel pressure or anything yet while it was cranking, but let's see how we go. Woof. Yeah. Now, there's some fuel. Let's get that idle up a little bit. Yeah. Hallelujah, happy days. Fuel pressure got at 6 psi at the moment. Timing I've got at 12 degrees. So happy with that for the time being. I will recommend Cocky to send this to dyno. Probably send it down to good old John Skorpos at JSR. He dynoed Dumbo when Dumbo was running carby and was just, yeah, really good, phenomenal, really good drivability for a carby. So yes, highly recommend if you're in Adelaide, send it down to good old John Skorpos at JSR. Now, just got to tidy a few things up on that. Got to get the trans harness from Cocky with the neutral safety switch and just a few other bits and pieces. Yeah, and then we'll start fitting the grill and messing around with the flip over headlights. Trying to do away with all the vacuum systems, so we're going to try and do a few more electric side of things to counteract that and keep things tidy. So anyway, time for me to clean up my benches and start afresh again. They were clean. I promise they were clean, but everyone's bench was like that, let's be honest. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys. This has been a long one. Sorry for the video chop and change. It's, yeah, just hard when you're trying to mock things up and where to video and all that sort of stuff. So thank you for hanging in there with me, and I'll catch you on the next one. Catch ya.